Today, we're going to do an overview of the components of your pneumatic trainer. Now, each time that you grab this pneumatic trainer, I also want you to grab your safety glasses because there's a lot of possibilities for parts to fly out on this. And we're going to start at the very beginning. The first item that you're going to have on yours is this disconnect right here. Now, listen when I turn this. This is not simply a shutoff valve. You also heard it hiss, and it dumped the air off of the system when you shut this valve off. After that, you have a spot that you can lock it out. And this should be on the beginning of all of our pneumatic systems. I think a lot of times when we think lockout tagout, we usually think of an electrical lockout tagout, but we need to remove all dangers. And there's definitely some dangers in having stored pneumatic energy on our systems. The next thing we're going to come to is the filter regulator. And this is probably the one that I see, we'll say PLC programmers and we'll call it pneumatic experts, leave out, is we have one cylinder we need to operate. So we purchase one solenoid and we mount it on the side of our control panel. This right here really is what extends the life of our pneumatic systems. Because first of all, it has a filter. The same as your car has a filter. If we're not filtering our air, we're going to end with particulates and all types of trash into our solenoids. That's going to make them stick, or they're going to pass on through and they're going to end up on these cylinders. That's going to scar our cylinders up. That's going to start air leaks, and air leaks cost us a lot of money. Now, the other way we can reduce the cost of those air leaks is by reducing our pressure. We got some really cool videos later in the series where we're going to do some calculations and learn about how a small air leak, one, costs us a lot of money, but reducing the pressure on that air leak can save us a lot. So these two components right here are not optional. They are a must on all of our pneumatic systems. And then we're going over to our basic solenoid bank through a flow indicator. So once we do our wiring exercise, we'll actually be able to see the cumulative flow and the instantaneous flow on our system. And your trainer comes equipped with 3 types of solenoid valves. And let's just talk a little bit about them even before we wire them. I'm going to put the pressure back on mine. Our left-hand solenoid goes to our horizontal cylinder. And this is a 3-position center exhaust valve. And what that means is if we energize one coil, it will come one way. If we energize the opposite coil, it will go the other way. But in our center position, it's actually venting both of these ports to atmosphere. So I can grab this cylinder and I can move it back and forth with ease, even though we have our lines connected. Now, our middle one looks identical to the left-hand one, and this is why it's really important that we start to be able to understand how to read the symbols on these, is this is also a 3-position, but it's a closed center valve. So that means instead of exhausting our ports when we're in the center position, we're just cutting off the airflow. So without being tremendously forceful, if we try to push this up, we can force it, but it even wants to pull right back down. And that's because we're building pressure on one side of the cylinder, and that's making it pull right back down. And our third one is called a 2-position single solenoid. So that means it only has one coil on it. There is no coil on the other side. So we energize one side, and that would make our grippers close. And then when you de-energize it, there's a spring that will take it back to the other position. Now, after that, our air lines are coming out, and our extend, retract, and our up-down cylinders are going through flow controls. And once we wire them up, we'll talk about those. And then on our gripper, additionally, we have a pressure switch. Since our part could be different widths, there's no way of knowing that you're truly grabbing on the part. So what this allows us to do is come in, and once it builds up pressure on that closed line, we know that we have grabbed a part and we can move on to the next process. Now let's do an exercise to help us understand how these solenoids actually operate. So we'll grab one of your cables out of your kit, and we're going to use switch 1 for our wiring to this. Now I've removed switch 1 just mainly so I can point at this while we're doing it. You don't need to remove your switch 1. And of the 3 wires of your cable, for your solenoid, you only use 2. You can leave the brown wire out of it. And then we're going to take the blue wire and we're going to put it into our minus 24 volt, which is our left-hand set of terminals. And then grab one of your wires out of your standard trainer kit and plug it into the plus 24 volt or the left-hand set of terminals. And we're going to take that wire to switch 1. Doesn't matter which side because it's simply a normally open contact. And then we're going to take the black wire to the other side of switch 1. So we're taking plus 24 volt up to switch 1. And when we turn switch 1 on, then that'll take 24 volt onto the end of our yellow cable, and our blue wire is our return back. Okay, so now make sure everything's clear. You have nothing in the way here because there will be items moving. Make sure you have your safety glasses on. And I'm going to start by plugging this into our right-hand solenoid, which only has 1 coil on it. And if you rotate around, eventually you'll find a spot that it'll slide in. Then make sure switch 1 is off and go ahead and turn on your PLC trainer. All right, and now I'm going to turn switch 1 on. And first we get an indicator light up here. And when we did that, our solenoid closed. And then we can turn switch 1 off and it opens back up. So in this case, we energize the coil, it shifts it to the closed position, and we de-energize it. A spring takes it back the other way. All right, now let's take that off. All right, next we're going to work with our middle solenoid, and we're going to start by putting this on the bottom of that middle solenoid. And then I'm going to turn switch 1 on, and that raises this up. Now, one thing to note is if yours does not raise up, have a look at these flow controls. So each one of these flow controls has a number on it, and there's a dial on the top of it, and you can turn them. So if somebody takes and cranks them all the way down, you won't have any flow and it won't move anywhere. But ours went up. Now, in this case, if I de-energize it, it stays where it is. Because it was a closed center valve, it's not going to want to go down. So now to make it go down, I'm going to take that cable off, and we're going to put it up here on the top solenoid, top middle solenoid. And now if I energize it, again, make sure there's nothing in the way. But when I energize that, it brings it back down. Now, another advantage of the closed center is, I'm going to put it back on this bottom, is we can stop the solenoid midway through. So this time, instead of just turning the switch on and leave it on, I'm just going to turn it on and back off. So on, off. And so now it's stopped about a 3/4 of an inch up. And so each time we can bump that one up until it finally hits its limit. All right, next, let's go ahead and put it on the bottom of our left-hand solenoid. And now, and watch that everything's out of the way, and that includes the cable that you just screwed in. But if I energize that one, it comes out, and there's pressure there. I can't push it back. But if I turn it off, I can grab my finger and I can move this one. So that's what a center exhaust solenoid is like. So we could either manually move it back, or now if I take it and we move it up to the top, then when we energize it, that would retract it. Now, a common question, even in my head a lot of times, is which one's better? It's very, very dependent on your application. Clearly, if we're raising something up, we wouldn't want it where when we de-energize the solenoid, it crashes down. That would probably be a bad thing. Now, there may be applications where we do want to be able to push something out of the way when it's not being energized. And then you may have applications where you need to open something up when it's de-energized. So there is a use for all three of these solenoids, and there's actually a multitude more solenoids. These are the three most common ones that you see out there. Okay, now we're going to modify our cable wiring so that we can learn about how our switches work. So we're going to go ahead and power off our trainers, and then we can go ahead and unwire switch 1, and we can disconnect the cable from the solenoid. That way everything is all fully disconnected. And this time on our trainer, we are going to use all 3 wires, and our brown wire is going to be our plus 24 volts. So we're going to put it to our left set of terminals. Our blue wire, that is our minus 24 volt. So we're going to put it to our right set of terminals. And then we are going to use light 1 for our black wire. However, I got an extra light 1 here just so I could have it near it while we're talking about this. These are bi-directional, so it doesn't matter which one you put where. But I'm going to put the black wire on X1 of our LED, and then take one of the wires out of your trainer kit and put it to X2, and then we will take it back to the minus, or our right-hand set of terminal blocks. And the reason for that is our sensors on the pneumatic trainer are PNP sensors. And we have videos talking about PNP, NPN, syncing, and sourcing. But for the purpose of this video, that means the black wire puts out positive 24 volt. So to make our light light up, we need to take this back to the negative. Then go ahead and turn the power back onto your trainer. And your extend, retract, up and down cylinders all have magnetic proxies on them. Now, they're not actually reed switches anymore, but that's a small detail that we're not even going to worry about in this video. But I went ahead and grabbed an extra one just so we can talk about how it works. Now, once we have it connected to our cable, there's not really a lot of indication whether it's working or not until it senses a magnet. So if we take any magnet and we go near it, then you're going to see the red LED. In fact, let me get this out of the way. That way maybe you can actually see. You're going to see the red LED on our magnetic prox light up. In addition to it, you saw on your light 1 that it was lighting up. Now, a little bit about how that actually works is I have a cylinder here. Then as we slide it out, we have this front guide. And here's why it's so important that we have good filtration, because any dirt or anything that happens will end up on this back side, and then this is going to rub across it, and that's going to start rolling in our seals. But then we slide it out a little more right to the edge here. So this is our rod. It's what is actually connected to whatever's doing the work. And then you're going to have a wide part of the end called the piston. And so if we put pressure on this side of the cylinder, that's going to push this out this way because there'll be more pressure on the back side than the front side. And if we put pressure on that one, well, that's going to make it go the opposite way. Now, there's a lot less force on the retract because you do have the rod in the way, so we can't build nearly as much force there. But in addition to a seal right here, there is actually a magnet on this piston. So if I look at light 1 and I get my reed switch near that piston, then when I bring it up to it, it lights it up. And so that's what it's actually sensing inside this cylinder is this magnet on the end of it. Now, there's a lot more we need to learn, but it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more fun if we have this whole thing wired up. So we're going to stop here and we're going to go ahead and wire up our cabling to both our solenoids and our sensors. And I have this playlist right here that includes that video. And after that, we will start working through figuring out how to do our sequencing to make this thing pick a part up and move it over here and place the part back down. See you over there.